Quick. All right, everyone. Welcome. We are going to be doing a interview with the creative director of Battleborn, Jythri. This is our third interview. I did a full transcript of the first one, but kind of just summarized the second one. I'm thinking because I don't think this will be as long as the other ones. This VOD will be uploaded. I'm hoping to ask him about the DLC, and we're taking questions from the chat. If you want to tune in for the next one, come over to twitch.tv/Kalology, and I will be tweeting about it down here below. That felt way too official. All right, let's do this. Hey, Jythri, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Randy Varnell. I'm creative director on Battleborn and a little worn out right now, but happy to come and talk to you guys. Kayla's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think we'll keep this one quicker for your sake.
I'm good, man. I got some sleep last night, so sleep's overrated anyway.
Is it? All right. Okay. So the main focus here, two things. Firstly, before we get into the questions, post-launch, how is Gearbox feeling, just in general about it?
Uh, Cautiously optimistic, I think, is the way to say. We the launch has been pretty good. We're actually, if you compare, we do a lot of comparisons back to the first Borderlands back in 2009, and that launch felt a lot similar for us. It was a successful, it ultimately, Borderlands extremely successful new game for us, and even Borderlands 1 went on to sell, I think almost 7-8 million units in its lifetime. Uh, Battleborn is actually tracking just ahead of where Borderlands was on the sales, and we think it's going to be a game that it's going to work like that. A decent, solid launch. We're seeing steady and growing user counts on all three platforms, and hoping that word of mouth is gonna take us even further. I think we've got some big moments coming, and I think we're seeing more people, growth every day at a steady rate after launch. Had a big burst of people at launch, and now pretty steady growth, and hopefully we'll see that continue to go up.
Awesome. And then I'll probably ask a little more about post-launch stuff, but the big talk of the town right now is the first patch that's going to be coming out, not just with like nerfs and stuff, but potential DLC being released. Do you think there's any sneak preview that we can get right now? Any hints?
I can confirm a few things. So there's first off, let me talk a little bit about our strategy with that, and then yeah, I will absolutely drop a few hints on you guys, because I know that's what you really want to hear. I mentioned a couple of times before, I can't remember in the interview with you guys here, but talking with especially the early access players and a lot of guys who were other streamers at times, that uh, what we're understanding that this is an online game. It's going to need a lot of support. It's kind of new for us at Gearbox. We did some of that regular support on Borderlands 2 in the pre-sequel, but it's not like what Battleborn is going to require. So what we've aligned to in with our live team is a what we call a weekly heartbeat. Essentially, what we do is every Monday morning we have a couple of big meetings. We come in, we analyze data that's come in, and comments and feedback that have come in from the weekend and usually the last days in the prior week, and we make an updated hit list. We have some things that we can do what we call micro patches, which are very quick patches. Those are usually numerical balance tweaks. Sometimes it's a little surprising what we can do in there, but it's not like full map patches and all that. So those we queue up, and we're trying to do those on a weekly cadence. So every week, Wednesday or Thursday, you'll see one of those land in. We'll probably eventually land on a standard patch day, probably every Wednesday, again Wednesday afternoon or Thursday, and we'd love to do that, so we have a couple of days to handle any fallout from the patch before we go into the weekend, so everybody's pretty solid there. uh, Larger patches will come on a regular cadence as well, probably about once a month. It may be a little bit faster here out of the gate because we have more issues that we're discovering and trying to fix that require those larger patches. So there will be a patch this week that's going to contain a few things. I think Miko is going to get some health regen reduction, for example. I think Isaac's going to get some survivability toned down a little bit. And I think it's going to be the first in a series of Galilea patches. We're looking what we can do short term on Galilea to kind of stop the bleeding from her, up into the point that we can do something more serious. So the more serious Galilea corrections are coming into the bigger patch, which will it is in. So the bigger patches, because we are on all three platforms, have to go through a process on Xbox and PlayStation 4 called certification. And if players aren't familiar with that, if your fans aren't familiar with that, what certification is anytime you release a game on the consoles, Microsoft and Sony QA have to basically test the game itself and be sure that the game meets their quality standards on the consoles. That applies even to patches as well as it does the main game. For the main game, a certification process can take anywhere from 2 weeks to over a month. For patches, we've been working with the first parties to try to get that time down, but it still requires some time. So while we can sometimes patch things relatively quickly, the process is not always quickly to get patches to you guys, because it has to go through, unfortunately, some bureaucracy that's been in place a long time that is there to ensure quality to a certain level, but it unfortunately slows down our responsiveness on some things. So, for example, the issue with Marquis being able to snipe the sentry on the incursion overgrowth map is a really good example of something that it requires us to actually change the content in the game. We have to make uh, uh, adjustments to the actual geometry of the level itself, and so that's not something we can just take a numerical tweak and fix. We have to go and make some pretty. I think essentially what we did on that one is we reversed the stairwells on the sniper perches. So Marquis can no longer just nudge over the edge of a stairwell on that. He actually nudges from the other way, where you have all the obstructions in the walls that keep him from seeing where the sentry is. That's not the only change we've made on that match to try to solve that, but that's an example of what we've done to work on that. So that the patch that will come probably won't be. It definitely won't be this week. It may be as early as next week, but again, we're kind of at the mercy of Microsoft and Sony to clear those patches for us. And believe me, as soon as we can get past that, we're going to get that patch into your hand. That patch will also have some changes to Galilea. Character patches, it's not geometry that we change on characters, but when its logic changes to the way ability behaves, it requires a little bit more substantial patch for us. We're actually also, this is something that we realized in open beta, and I know a lot of people have said that we're slow to respond in open beta, but what open beta really helped us find were the places where we were slower than we wanted to be in patching. So one of the things we're trying to do, especially with characters right now, is we're working on a series of tools where we can apply more of the types of patches that we want to apply as micro patches, rather than having to put them through full certification patches. That'll generally let us do more expansive patching faster, which will increase our turnaround time for issues that are pretty severe. And those issues really are going to come up, we predict, as we add new content to the game. We certainly plan on adding new maps, new characters, new modes, all of the above. And when we get, thousands and thousands and thousands of players playing that content, that's when we really see that content show some things that we can't find when we only have 100 people testing it, between Gearbox and 2K. So we need to come back and handle that. Anyway, a big, long technical answer. I hope that wasn't too boring for you guys, but I just want to let everybody know that we are, every day right now, we get to work, and all we're talking about is what we can do to make the game better. What are the critical issues? What are the new things that have come up the last night? We've got multiple community people scouring through the forums, through the Reddit. We're listening to Twitter. We're listening to emails. We are internally playing the game. I'm in mid-20s on command rank right now. Most of our balance guys at Gearbox are in the same place. So we're with you. We're playing the game on all the platforms. We're playing it every day. We're feeling the same pains that everybody else is playing. And we're using that as well as the data, as well as the feedback, to help prioritize that. Other things, just a couple of sneak peeks. I don't want to tease all the patch notes because you never know where it's gonna land. But let's see, Ambra's getting a few things. Oh, Galilea, we are going to remove the attack while sprinting. That's one of the changes coming to Galilea. That's one of the big ones that keeps her from chasing you down as a as kind of a tankier character. I believe we're getting the change in. I don't have confirmation on this yet, but we're trying to get the change in on her where her Desecrate no longer continues to apply the silence and wound effects, but will only apply them on initial use of the ability, which will again still let her have some of the versatility that we like in her, but will no longer turn her into an area control, absolutely unstoppable juggernaut. It means that when you assault her with a Wrath or an Eldragon or someone like that, you won't run into her and suddenly can't use all your abilities. You'll be able to actually beat her around a little bit, which should take her out of the God tier and back into just a solid kind of A tier or high B tier character where she needs to be. So I think that's going to be really important for her. Khalees is actually going to get some nerfs, if you can believe that. There were there were a lot of crazy things with Khalees after we buffed him up that he could do with his like he could use a shock taser to expose stealth enemies, which was not intended. There were some things he could do with Rift Network and one of his augs called Bulk Savings. That that cause some odd damage behaviors, and by that I mean probably a little bit too much damage. Um, Other fun things. Oh, we're gonna change. We're doing a lot of collision passes on Overgrowth and Echelon. Those maps have gotten a lot of comments that there were just a lot of little toe traps and holds on that. So we're working on that. That should be in the first content patches. We're also, it looks like we've got a change coming in, if it makes it, where when one team gets the first sentry down, you no longer will constantly spawn shepherd minions from the winning team side. You'll get a shepherd minion once every 4 waves, I think, which should also help empower the comeback just a little bit better. It'll make it a little bit less snowballing. We're looking at some things like that are just general quality of life movements and working on that. We also have a number of a set of performance fixes coming in. We've heard a lot of people in specific areas talking about performance, sometimes map related and sometimes more hardware related. We're doing several things there. I think, in fact, we have a couple of micro patches coming in this week that are going to do some things that should make maps like Echelon, Cold Snap. I think those 2 maps particularly a little bit better. Some things that we found that we can do without requiring a huge content patch. And then we have some other ones that will continue to come in pretty soon. I think we have another performance patch that's going to show up in a few weeks. We're working on that, but we're certainly aware of the issues. We have some strange ones, like we know people with certain older AMD cards. I think the 6900 series on AMD cards are having a really bad time of it. That's going to be a weird one. While those cards are technically above our min spec, the driver manufacturer and chip manufacturer for the parts of those cards that we would need to talk to really work through those issues no longer exist. So it's really difficult for us to troubleshoot that hardware. And in fact, if we're doing what we can, but it may just be, wow, we're going to have a long-term running issue on that. So we're working on it. But I'm if you're a AMD 6900 card holder, this might be a good year to think about, moving to a little bit more modern AMD card and to play in all of your games. And Battleborn will certainly do well there. So there's a lot more. That's not even half the things that are coming in the patches in the next couple of weeks. But I think those are some highlights that people have talked a lot about. Oh yeah, the third one that is going to be in the content patch that comes in a little more than a week from now, hopefully. It is the one where character-specific legendary gear will no longer have variable stats. That was never intended. I thought we had fixed that for the Day Zero patch. It will absolutely be fixed on that. So all character legendaries that are the same will have all the same stats for all players who get them. That will no longer be something that's randomized. So there's my patch answer. And if that's any indication, we'll be here for another hour and a half answering the next 3 questions.
I mean, thank you so much. That was a lot of information. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've talked. So I just want to let you know and let all of our users know we've been incredibly busy, and it's not just sitting and obsessing over what place gave us this review score or that review score. It's been actually working on improving the game. This is a living organism, as a game. It's not, ship and done like it's been for us before on Borderlands. This is going to be a game that will improve and grow over time, and interacting with the community is I think what's going to make this make it or break it.
Awesome. So I think I'm going to continue to flow through the changes. So three main topics here: split screen, matchmaking, like with other people, not so much in-game stuff, and rank mode.
Split screen, matchmaking, and ranked mode. Those are okay. I can handle those in that order. Split screen it's been a unfortunate thing, and I'm sorry that it's been so bad for a lot of players. There are kind of two different issues that I've heard on split screen, and I'll kind of handle both of them. One of them is the ongoing question of PC split screen, which again we're kind of locked in this world that unless Valve changes the way Steam supports accounts, we're not going to support a guest account. It's just the way the game works and the game progresses and the game unlocks. That's just the unfortunate world that we're in right now. The world we're kind of choosing to end. I'm not going to put it all on Valve, but because we can't support multiple accounts logged in concurrently on PC, that's not going to happen in the short term. If Valve ever changes that policy, we'll certainly reinvestigate that. On the consoles, I know we've heard a lot of word on the split screen. Just not being what people wanted or expected. There's like a myriad of problems, like can't read the text, and don't like the big oversized map and want a vertical option instead of a horizontal option. So we are looking at that, investigating that. I just want to set an expectation that that is an extremely expensive exercise for us to do. That is, it's one of those things that, man, sorry that it wasn't great out of the gate. It's hard to come back and investigate. I'm not going to say we're not going to do it, but we're actually looking into how bad the problem is right now, and we're trying to see if there's anything that we could do in the short term that's a little bit easier fix than having to do that. Just think that every time that we touch split screen, basically every element that can appear on the HUD has to be repositioned and reconsidered, and that includes things like specific mode widgets, like things that only appear when you have certain configurations of characters on the screen, HUD for each of the characters, and all of that. So it's not just resize this, resize that. It's taking dozens and dozens of elements across 3 platforms, by the way, because sometimes when we move stuff around on split screen for the consoles, it actually affects main HUD positioning on the PC. So we have to understand those conventions as well. So it's a pretty big thing for what's a fairly small UI team right now in post-launch Battleborn. So doing, for example, split screen and spending time on that might be very important. We might choose to do a major overhaul on that. That would delay some other things that we would like to do post-launch. For example, like ranked mode, that is also a UI intensive thing that we would like to do that we think might have a little bit more value for the product. So what we're really doing right now is listening to all the feedback. Man, I feel for all the people who feel that the split screen didn't meet their expectations, and I'm I feel all the feels for them. And we'll look at it, but just want to set expectations that we're not sure when or how we will address that. But if people keep asking for it and keep talking about it, it's something that will affect our priorities. I mean, we're in a world right now where we're kind of a service instead of a game. So if players really want that, it continues to keep it up on our priority list, and it's something we'll look at. So the split screen matchmaking. So we're looking at several different things with matchmaking right now. And again, I'm going to split this into 2 different categories, because you have what you have first is nope, I can't remember where I was going with that. So matchmaking, we have a number of different things that we need to look at. we are working right now and doing a lot of adjustments just on the range of matching for players and the types and numbers of queues that we have for matching in. At the moment, the best control that we have is kind of deciding how long it's going to take you to match versus how good of a match we make with you. Uh, it's kind of an either or decision right now. So one of the things that we're really working on post launch is to make that not an either or decision, but make it so that we can do both, so that we can shorten the match time into certain matches, and also make it so that that your matches will match closer to skill teams. There is
Load
matchmaking
of
in all
all
the competitive
spiders
queues on all the
looking for
platforms
some
right now. It's not
upgrades.
based on command rank, by the way. So the big number you see next to your name, that's not what we're using at all to match on you. In fact, for your users, I think I've mentioned this before, but just a little bit more of a detail on how our matchmaking works. It's actually a two-phase matchmaking. When you first match in solo queue or group queue, it doesn't matter. But let's take solo queue for example. We take your behind the scenes, and we do use an ELO rating system. So we take your ELO rating, which is invisible to you at the moment. We look for a team, and we build a team of people that are within a certain threshold of ELO rating from your ELO rating, and put that together. ELO rating starts at an average amount and goes up or down based on your wins or losses. So we'll try to find a team that's close to your range of that. Once your team is assembled, we average the ELO rating for your entire team and then look for another team that's matched that has an ELO rating, again, within that tolerance range of what you're matching there and match it there. So we actually are matching to build the team and then matching at a team to find it. I think it's a pretty solid strategy. What we don't have right now is some of the finesse and some of the logic that we want in the system to really get that. So one of the things we're doing just in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, is making it so that the skill ranges that you're matching in are smaller, and we're going to have to do some tricky things with especially the extremes, the extreme high end and the extreme low end of the ELO ratings, because those trail out, and it comes to a point that the people that are like the very best and the very worst are now matching to very small groups of users. So we have to do something maybe like collapsing the ends of the spectrum and get our ELO ratings a little bit more. Yeah, ELO is far more than KDA, by the way. It really is based on win or losses and based on who you win or lose against. So if you beat a better team, you gain more ELO. If you lose against a better team, you lose less ELO. There's a lot more logic in that. So we've got to do something there first, and that's going to be something we can do in the short term, hopefully, to increase that. The other thing that we want to do long term is we need to work in more of the logic for understanding the composition of groups within matchmaking. I think that's a big element that factors in. I know a lot of people right now are like, "Oh, I matched in against a 5-man team. I'm dead." It's not the case. We're actually doing some data pulling right now to see how often that a 5-man group does curb stomp the other team. I've been in those groups and I know what it feels like. I've also completely solo queued in with a bunch of solo queuers and beat a 5-man team. So we're actually doing some data assessment right now to find out how bad that problem is. I think it is a problem. It's something we're looking in. Unfortunately, that fix may take a little bit longer. Right now, we're semi-dependent on the individual platform, some of the individual platform matchmaking technology. For example, Microsoft provides something that a lot of games used. We're plugged in and kind of built on top of that right now, and they don't have that ability to support that logic in their matchmaking on this generation. I think they did on the 360, but I don't think the Xbox One is quite as good at handling that. So those are some things that we have to work with, and some partnerships that we have to work through to be able to get those changes. And it may result in us having to completely roll our own independent, under control matchmaking system, which is a dream for us. We want to do it, but right now we've got some dependencies that are slowing us down a lot more than we want on that. So we're looking for other solutions of that to try to level that out. And I guess the other area we're really looking at matchmaking again is the types of queues that we're adding in for players. I know, like in campaign play, we've seen a lot of people request the ability to match in, for example, story advanced. So that's something that's probably going to show up this week or next. We get a button there, and you'll be able to match in to advanced missions on story, which will let people work on those challenges with random groups if you want. The other thing that's been a pretty popular request is people wanting to be able to match into specific missions. The problem with that, and I've kind of mentioned it before, not that we can't do it, we can totally do it, but that means that every new button that you have to click there divides the community again by that many players. And so what that means is that some of those, if you, for example, take all story missions and I give you 8 buttons for normal story and 8 buttons for advanced story, that's going to be divide the current matching pool into 16 different groups. So imagine it taking, maybe it's not that it would take 16 times longer than now, but it will be much longer now. If you're matching in 30 seconds or a minute now, imagine that going up instantly to 5 or 6 minutes, and then some queues taking upwards of 10 minutes. So that is something we want to avoid until we have a solid and stable enough player base that can support that. Which, by the way, the player base is not just trailing down. We had a big spike at launch, but we've stabilized and are actually showing an increase in number of players from day to day across several of the platforms. So that's really encouraging, and I think that's going to increase, especially as the Overwatch beta ends and people turn a little bit more attention back to us and start really looking at that. We'll see some neat bumps up in I think the next few weeks, and hopefully stabilize with an active group of people who play the game as much as you and I do, Kalo. Anyway, I think what we're gonna end up doing on the story missions, we've got an idea and we're working on the implementation of this right now, where we'll probably do a daily or weekly featured mission, probably on normal and advanced. And then what you'll be able to do is for that day or for that week, queue into that mission to work specifically on that mission with groups of people. And then we'll rotate that on a regular basis, either daily or every 2 or 3 days or every week or something like that. Maybe even give some featured bonuses for playing in that. And I think if we do that type of rotation, it will keep the number of queues down, but make it so that people can get to content they want. And encourage you to come back every so often and play. Here's the day I'm going to come in and play Battleborn to work on my Saboteur Advanced Silver, and I think it would be a big boost. I think it will kind of split the difference, give people what they want. It will keep the queue times under control, and give you a lot more access to play in the way you want to play, which has always been pretty important for us. Okay, so that was matchmaking, split screen. What was the third one?
Ranked.
Ranked is something that we want to do and we're committed to doing. We are getting through kind of this launch window first. We're really trying to find the most critical issues and prioritize them and be sure that we understand when and how we can respond to those. Ranked is down we have a set of kind of competitive support features that we want to do. And again, this is all other than to say we really want to do it. Everybody on the team wants to do it. We've got some commitment, I think, from the higher ups in Gearbox and 2K to pursue this. But there's some other things that we have to prioritize first, like namely the season pass content, the DLC that we want to get out. We need to have that under control before we go down the aisle on ranked. Doesn't mean we're going to start that until all of that's done. It just means that we need to get some work out in the beginning to get those things settled, and then we can move into the ranked type of play. I don't have a lot of details on that right now. We are really at the moment in the design and discussion phase. We're looking at a lot of different games that are doing ranked play. That we certainly play those. StarCraft, Rocket League, several of the Blizzard games. You name it, we were into it. League of Legends, Dota. We've got players that play all of those, and looking for what the kind of the right form and style is for that in Battleborn. So I think it would be a huge boon to multiplayer to add that in. I think it's going to be really important for the longevity of our game, and I can't get it in fast enough. But again, we've got some other things that are requiring our attention right now, and as soon as we can turn our attention to ranked, absolutely want to do that.
I mean, it seems like that's the best answer I'm gonna get, but an estimate maybe, a time estimate.
Whew. Well, probably looking at 2 to 3 months at this point. That's just, man, that is a off the cuff, really terrible estimate, and it depends on a lot of other things that show up in the next couple of months. But Yeah, this is not a week's thing. This is unfortunately a month's thing, but it's not a year's thing.
I think a good follow-up to that then. So we have or you have the Battleborn game Twitch, and we already have some community tournaments planned or are going right now. So if you could talk about esports at all, esports support, whether that be community or officially.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We again, ranked is certainly a part of it down the line of that. I've mentioned before that we kind of have an order of things that we want to do to support that end of things. The very 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 first thing that we want to get out that just seems very obvious is an improved ability to spectate or really to broadcast the game. So getting tools in streamers or shoutcasters' hands where they can have a different HUD, a different interface. Uh, we got some very early thoughts about that and some very rudimentary camera tech coming in, but generally the what it's going to look like on first draft is you'll be able to host a private match with players, a couple of extra players in player 11 and 12, and player 11 12 will function as broadcasters. So they will get a different interface, they will get different camera control, and they'll be able to broadcast the game and talk over it. They'll be able to bring up all the stats for the teams looking at that. So that'll be the first thing that we get out, and we'll once we start getting some beta and prototypes of that feature, we certainly want to reach out to some people who have casted or want to cast for our game, get their feedback on it, and refine that with them. That's something that hopefully will come out a little bit sooner. Just following that, we got some plans for a draft mode under the way. We've got some early designs on that right now that we're thinking about working through. Again, not a lot of effort made on those yet. We're just kind of waiting to get out of kind of this response to launch window. We've got a lot of issues that we have to prioritize first, just quality of life stuff. Again, matchmaking and performance and technical issues that we want to get under control. Um, and there's a few more things on that, but it starts to get into the really speculative realm. So I don't want to talk. I don't want to make anything that sounds. And I hope everybody understands. I'm trying to be really open and honest with you guys. I don't want to do anything that sounds too much like a promise right now. I just want to let you know that these are places that we desperately want to go. We know that a lot of you want to go there as well. So it did amuse me that Overwatch announced during our launch week last week that they're not going to start with ranked play either. That's something that's going to be coming later for them as well too. So, hey, it's a hard thing to do, and it requires a lot of thought and a lot of balance. And when you're trying to actually launch a game, it's something that unfortunately has to be put on like a second tier priority before you can get to it. Just like to call the attention to everybody. They're facing some of the same challenges that we are in that. So we all want it. We know that it's really big for us. For them, I'm really surprised because esports is such a big part of their promise. So I thought that they would actually launch a little bit stronger with that. But hey, we'll both get to it, and everybody who likes to play our games that way, we'll get there and be able to do that, and it'll be sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't expecting any less with all the post-launch stuff. I think you guys have been doing great.
Well, thank you. We're we are depriving ourselves of sleep to try to keep the game moving forward.
Oh gosh. Okay. So DLC. You talked about it a little bit. Obviously the chat's not happy. So first, I'm gonna split this up into sections. I'll ask per. So in the 7th mission, Saboteur, are we ever gonna actually put Nova in the robot suit?
That's been a real popular request. I can't deny it. I've got nothing to announce on that yet, other than to recognize that it's been a big fan request. And honestly, in launch, we're going to put a lot of priority on listening to what people want and try to make that happen. So I would love to see that personally.
Um, so we know that Alani's first, but how soon is she first?
I can't say, but it's really soon. I mean, I can't say. Marketing will destroy me if I say anything about that. But it's not months away. It's weeks away. Is
That
that is that is that
that's a
close enough?
pretty big hint. Yeah, I
Okay.
If I was marketing, I'd be pretty mad about that even, I think. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I probably, if I don't ever come back and talk to you again, you'll know what's happened.
Okay, here I'll rephrase this next one so it's not the same marketing problem. For maps, let's say there's like big patches every few months, a new hero, some new content, big updates. For maps, would it be like one at a time, you think, or will there be multiple releases at once?
Uh, that is variable on how fast we can make them. I know that we have 3 maps in progress right now to add an additional map to each mode. So there's a new capture map, a new incursion map, and a new meltdown map. We're playtesting those internally right now and have been for a few weeks. They're getting their they're getting their polish and optimization passes right now. I think with what we've learned from launch, we need to spend a little bit more time on the ones that are going out to try to handle some of the issues that we've seen repeated with the maps. We would like to learn from our mistakes and not repeat them again. So I don't think that's going to delay them much, but I'm unsure about how they're going to be put out, and that's really, unfortunately, that's not my decision. That has to do with marketing and how they want to do it. But those should all be coming out hopefully within the next month or two. We've got 3 more maps. We've got another multiplayer mode coming out that I can't talk at all about right now, but it will add another way to play in multiplayer. We've actually got several modes in prototype right now, and one that's a little bit ahead of the pack. So we'll be able to get that to everyone. And again, the tier 2 skins are finally on the way. I think you'll start to see some of those actually added around the same time as Alani shows up. And so that will be pretty sweet too for people who are dying to acquire more
Weeks.
skins for their characters.
That's really exciting. And good answer, by the way. You you cut around the edges there.
Yeah, I'm trying. I really, I hope you know how straightforward I try to be with you guys on everything. But when we start talking timing and dates, because it is marketing, and they try to pace and they try to put things out and they try to do all that, and then there's just the technical issues like I talked before with certification, that sometimes we'll put something in, it's going to be on this date, and especially when it's fast turnaround like the DLC is, if we fail a certification, it means it has to come back, we have to make changes, and it has to go back to certification again, which means it can push back a release as little as a week and as much as 2 or 3, depending on how things go, and that's really disappointing. So that, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, that's one of the reasons why releasing games on certain dates is always, everybody almost misses their first date these days, because there's all sorts of twists and turns in that path.
Okay, so we're still on the topic of DLC here.
Yep.
Smaller question: the gold skins for everybody.
uh, those will be we can certainly make them. Those will be delivered over time through probably additional special promotions. They will again, that kind of is in the hands of I think those are specifically having to do with PR and marketing and those people. So if you know Joe King, you can absolutely hammer him about that on the Battleborn forums, and he'll make that happen for you. He's gonna hate me that I said that, but I'm gonna I'm gonna put it on him.
Okay, and then one more DLC question about Battleborn Tap, integrating it more in the game, if at all.
I can't stop playing that stupid little game.
Right.
It was weird the other day. I was sitting waiting in queues for Battleborn, and in fact, even as I would pick a character, and I was, before a match would begin, while I was waiting on the timeout, I would go up and I would tap a few levels. It's funny, those things always, the little support games are not something that was made by the dev team at Gearbox. About the only thing that I had to do with Tap, I can't take any credit of it. There was another company that worked on that, and then one of our Gearbox producers just worked with it. The only thing that I did was to be sure that there was nothing that was an absolute violation to the canon and lore of the game, and that the characters were kind of preserved, and it felt like a Battleborn thing. But the only integration we have right now, of course, is if you go into Tap and you integrate your shift code, you get an Arendi skin. I actually don't know, and I can be pretty pretty positive with this right now. I don't know what the additional plans of integration are there, but there are probably other. Maybe that's another method of gold skin release or loot packs. Because it is shift integrated, and that is our back end technology. We have the potential to do more there. So I don't know. I'll at least pass I'll pass the note along. Apparently, Battleborn Tap has been a lot more popular than expected, so I'll let people know that we want that.
Awesome, awesome. So community events for the player base. We did the open beta challenges. Do you think something like that could come around the corner?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think we have some plans on that. And again, that's one of the things that we've created some support for in several different ways, and are working with our marketing team right now to get those on a little bit more of a regular schedule. I think the ideal goal would be have something new every week for players to look at, whether it's a new big release or more skins or a community event or something. It's within our interest and your interest to always have something going on. Um, so again, no dates on those, but it's definitely something we would like to do more regularly.
Oh, thank you for the donation, Sackett. So for campaign missions, obviously you guys have heard some complaints about some of them, but I guess
No, they're all perfect.
uh, treating them as like characters, I guess. Campaign mission like nerfs and buffs, and the possibility of like a badass difficulty. Thank you so much, Sackett, for that.
So nerfs and buffs, yes. In fact, I think some of the patches that we're trying to get in this week are going to take care of some of the worst problems there. Two particularly that I've asked people to look at based on feedback from the community. Um, Saboteur Advanced has a difficulty problem right at the end of that mission. Um, and it's really, really extremely painful because you have to get silver on all those missions to unlock Galt and even to a degree Deandy. So we're gonna there's probably a temp band-aid fix that we'll have, and it will probably look something like doubling the health on the defense core in that mission on both normal and advanced, just to give you a little bit more time to get your strategy together. Another one that we're looking at is scoring on the archive is a little wonky. It's really, really, really hard to score above a bronze on that unless you do really, really strange things. So we want to even that out. Um, there's some general problems with scoring and getting above bronzed on like low player count plays, like single player to 3 player throughout the game that we're looking at right now. Again, we're actually looking at stats and data on completion and on how many people are getting scoring at certain levels and seeing what those are, and we'll make some score range adjustments to those over time. So, were there any other specific things that I didn't talk or address about there? Or the other things that you guys
No,
want
no,
to
I
hear
think that
about?
was good. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll ask you again if they bring something up. So a few days ago, a literal little birdie told us on Reddit, or showed its face rather, the new hero leak. Uh, I don't assume you can talk about it at all, but the little UPR grenade launcher guy.
Well, what I will say on that is that the outline and the art that we showed at PAX in the 5 character DLC standing behind Alani is the newer version. The one that showed up in the client is an old piece of concept art, one of the original early pieces of concept art, not quite in the current art style that we have for that character. But yeah, that's one of the 5 initial DLC characters. And I think all we mentioned about that is I think we mentioned as much on the PAX panel that yes, it is a bird. You can pretty much tell that. And yes, it has a grenade launcher. So if you like spamming grenade play, this will be your character.
All right, fair enough. So earlier on, these are sort of follow-up questions from the chat. You were talking about like incentives for the missions, and on top of that, like a daily quest thing. Any more comments on that?
It's something that I really, really want in the future. It will be kind of daily quest is something that will be technically possible for us around the same times as we get to leaderboards and tiers for ranked play. I would expect
Load up
that you
all
would see
spiders,
something
looking for
appear
some
about that time so that
upgrades.
we take care of our campaign players as well as our PvP players.
In terms of platforms, I don't assume you have this on the top of your head, but um, like which platform is Battleborn the most popular on?
That's not something I think I can say. Um, it is, I will say it is a console. But it's not as dramatically different in the open beta. Because the PS4 ran longer, the PS4 was the most popular platform in open beta. That made a lot of sense. In release, and the PS4 was dramatically ahead of the PC and the Xbox in open beta. In release, that's a little bit different. So we're seeing the platforms a little bit closer together. So I can't share actual numbers, and I don't want to share a lot of comparisons, but um, they're all three much closer together. But the consoles are generally ahead of PC.
All right, fair enough. So this is sort of two opposite spectrums here, but so local co-op for PC, and then just sort of some reassurance
Load
for
up all
competitive play on all
spiders, looking
platforms.
for some upgrades.
What are you looking for? So, more specific questions. What do you want me to talk about local co-op on PC?
Just the viability of it happening, because obviously it's the only platform with no multi or no split screen.
Oh, I already talked about PC split screen. I addressed that in the split screen thing. Generally, it's again the way the accounts work, and we want you to play in Battleborn. We want everybody to play to always be working on an account and advancing your stats that way. Steam currently does not support multi-user login through the client. You have to use guest accounts or other trickery to get multiplayers on there, and that's not something that we're going to spend the effort it would take to implement split screen on the PC to support, because it really doesn't capture what the experience that we want with Battleborn on that. So not a high priority for us.
All
And
right.
what was the other one?
Um, just some reassurance about competitive play on all platforms, not just PC.
Uh, there is competitive play on all platforms. I mean, what are you looking for
Well,
reassurance on?
so for like, I don't really. That was the question, but I'm thinking it's like how CS:GO is just a PC thing, but Battleborn is, I think, more accessible to controllers at a competitive level. So will there, tournaments and ranked play and patches like that be out at the same time for consoles?
Well, yeah, I think we work on all three platforms at the same time. So unless a patch is platform specific, which some of them are, for a specific perf thing here or there, or some like, we're considering adding a FOV slider on the consoles because people have requested it. Those would be not for all of that, but our patches will always apply to all three platforms. One of the advantages we get by being a server authoritative game, aka an always online game, is that all of the balance tweaks and all of the things that happen with the game core itself are done often at the server level. Very little logic is in the client. We do that to keep hacking and prevent hacking and various methods of that. It's standard kind of online play strategy. Because of that, yeah, when we patch anything on one platform, it patches all three at the same time because it's happening largely in the same place. So, um, yeah, the cool thing about this generation of consoles, it was very different. Like one of the things that made us really pursue Battleborn as a project 4 years ago. Last generation, Valve actually released a version. I don't know if everybody remembers this, of Team Fortress 2 on, I believe, the Xbox 360, maybe the PS3 as well. And it almost never got a patch because last generation it was expensive, costly, and that certification process I've talked about was even worse last generation than it is in this generation. So Valve didn't even bother doing that because it just wasn't worth their time to support that. And honestly, there were limits on the amount of megabytes, and read that right, megabytes, that you could patch over the lifetime of a game on the previous generation. This generation, the Xbox One and the PS4, have been created to be online, and all of those limits are removed. So there's still a process that Microsoft and Sony are using to caretake the quality of the products on their platforms, but we have a lot more availability to patch, and we've done some clever things again with our ability to micro patch that lets us patch at the server level, not the client level, that doesn't require a patch. So we're doing a lot of, we can do a lot of things to support, and we planned on it for 4 years of development of the game, and absolutely plan on supporting this game extremely competitively. Like I said at the beginning, we're hopefully on a weekly cadence for patch updates, and hopefully a monthly cadence for bigger updates, if not faster than that. But the weekly cadence is a real thing that's going to happen, and we're going to consider things, and we're going to look at it. Let me put a caveat in here for you balance nerds, by the way. Um, Balance is something that we are trying to be very, very deliberate and intelligent about. And I know sometimes it doesn't look like it when everybody's saying, you knew about Galileo at open beta and you haven't done anything yet. What's wrong with you? It's a complex beast, and it looks a lot different from the dev seat than it does on the player seat. I can tell you because I've been in the player seat before, and I've been the guy screaming at the devs to balance it. And some of it certainly is slowed down by the certification thing, I say, but a lot of it has to do with people feel a problem, but the problem that they report and scream about and yell about, and all the various methods we give you on forums and Twitter and all that, is not always the problem that needs to be corrected. We can actually look at numbers across thousands, if not millions, of games and matches and data events, where we go through a process now where we take a report, we look at it, we put it in, we do several days of data analysis. And that does one of two things. One, it either establishes the truthfulness that, yeah, this is something that needs to happen,
Load of all
or if we're
spiders
still
hunting
unsure
for
about
some
it and want to make a change
upgrades.
anyway, we at least establish a data checkpoint before we do a balance change so that we can diff what happens in the data before the change and after the game. What that means is even if we don't understand exactly what the patch might do or what the change might do with the overall meta of play, it means that over time we can get smarter about the types of changes that we make and how long it takes for us to see the impact of a change. In fact, we had some of the high res developers reach out to us last week, and Riot, by the way, who Riot apparently has a group that's playing. They're the quote them. They're playing Battleborn religiously at Riot, and they actually love it, and gave us some really encouraging notes on launching a new game and putting it out there. But the high res guys talked to us, and they said, note this about your balance changes. What they found in their lifetime is you put a balance change out, and it often takes 3 to 4 days before the noise dies down from the change before you can make any kind of determination of whether the change had any effect whatsoever or if it had the effect intended. So you've got to kind of put a balance change out. You've got to let 3 days go past, and then you start pulling data to see what's happening with community, because it takes the community 2 or 3 days to adjust the meta of their play, to try it out, to have people say, no, you've over nerfed it, and some other people, no, you actually haven't, you just have to play it differently. And it takes some time for the dust to settle on every change you make. So if we make changes too fast, make too many changes at a time, those are all different things that cloud the balance. So slow balance changes from us don't mean that we aren't listening. It means we are trying to be very careful and very deliberate about our balance changes. We're learning a lot, and we're trying to take the advice of a lot of other people that we both witnessed and talked to, to be sure that we're being very responsible with the balance and are going to get better at balancing this game as it moves forward. So I love all you guys. I love all the passionate feedback. I've seen a lot of posts. I respond to some of them, but just know that we aren't sitting on our butts, drinking coffees and not doing anything about it. We are most of the time in days in rooms at Gearbox with whiteboards and balance designers yelling at each other about who's overpowered and who's not, and then waiting patiently for our data. We have we have doctors and we have doctors and masters of data guys that do nothing but sit and pull data by request of the designers and other people all day long, and give us huge charts and spreadsheets in lots of different ways, and we're constantly pulling that data and looking at it. So it's a big complex beast. We are extremely committed to doing it. We're going to get better at it as we go along, and we're going to make some mistakes as we go along. But hopefully, over time, it'll become a little bit more predictable. Also, every time we drop a new character in, a new mode in, new gear in, anything that we do in that affects the overall ecosystem of balance. So it means that we'll have to look at everything again. We're very cognizant that every change that we make can do something really, really incredible. We're also very aware that some things that people are still reporting are some characters that things people have reported are like underpowered are actually not. They just require extreme skill to pull it off. Like, I don't know how many boulders that you guys have played against recently, but Boulder, who was considered underpowered through all through open beta, who got no changes really, is an incredible juggernaut of a character right now in the right hands. In fact, even in the early access where we're having very, very experienced skilled players playing him at the end, we're going 4v1, 5v1 against a Boulder player, and it was nearly impossible to take him down. I watched a game tonight with a Boulder I'd never seen. My son playing against him, who's a pretty awesome Caldarius player now, and they were having to go 3v1, 4v1 against a Boulder who was under leveled with the rest of the team, and we're just distracting him and then running away laughing. So there's all sorts of things like that just took the community some time to figure out how to get Boulder played correctly. And I think Boulder is a great example of a character that was not actually underpowered. He just wasn't understood by the player base yet. So it's another reason why we again really try to think through and understand balance changes of these characters, because we've seen some of this before in development. And it's really hard when your community's screaming at you telling something's underpowered, and we're like, I really don't think so. Like, no, underpowered. Nope, you really don't want me to change that dial. We can, but you don't. And sometimes they get insistent, and we do, and then suddenly, oh, what did you do? You've done something wrong. And we're like, told you we probably shouldn't. And so again, it's a big complex thing that we're doing. That's certainly no excuse for doing dumb-headed stuff, and we're trying our best not to do dumb-headed stuff.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind when you started talking about that was the big El Dragon nerfs. All like everyone, the whole early access group was just like, why did they do this? Including myself a little bit. I don't think I was as volatile as some other people, but we gave it a week, and the El Dragon players were still playing El Dragon very successfully, and I just had to tip my hat.
Yep. I'm a big El Dragon fan myself, and I was not slowed down much by that. I did go from getting 30 kills a match as El Dragon to 15 kills a match, but I'm still get more kills with him than I do with other. But El Dragon, for me, I'm an idiot with him. I get 15 kills, but I'll die 12 times. So that's that's the way I play him.
Classic Jythri.
Yeah.
So back to Battleborn Tap for a question or two, I guess.
Sure.
So first,
you're gonna make me. I'm gonna have to hunt for my phone now. I'm gonna pull it out and start playing.
Oh God.
All right, here we go.
So first, some apps that spawn that start on like Google Play and iOS are sometimes brought onto Steam. Do you think that could happen for Battleborn Tap?
I have no idea. I'm always a fan of saying anything's possible if it's popular enough. Um, I don't know. Like I said, it's not something that I'm directly involved in the development on, so I think that would be cool. I think to really, my opinion as a designer, I think if you brought it onto Steam, some of the early questions about could you do more to integrate this with the main game would really, really, really need to be answered to bring it onto Steam. I would want a little bit meatier of a game there, and I would want to. I want to add some more things that you unlock in the main Battleborn game by playing onto Steam. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll take this right to the TAP team tomorrow and let them know that you guys are requesting these. What was the other TAP question we had?
A problem that you might find a little personal. Miko is referred to as a her.
Miko is a fungus.
Yeah, well, in the game, it's referred to as a her. So, big canon problem there.
In a probably in a lore item from the perspective of another character, correct?
I'm not sure. I just had the question, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure that's what happens there. I think if you pay attention, it's in other reports and speculation, which I think if you really wanted to tip the hand there, the various other contributors to the lore writing in canon guess but don't know. I think Miko itself never uses a personal pronoun. I think it always says we or us or something of that nature. So I think Miko's a little bit indefinite. Uh, Miko, again, as far as we're concerned, the development, the jury's still out on what gender Miko actually is. Can it change gender? Is it both genders? Is it just a fungal creature that doesn't really need a gender? I don't know. We might answer that more definitively in the future, but right now, the official answer from Gearbox is make your best guess.
Alright, fair enough. Yeah, someone did send me a screenshot just now, though. It's the lore description when you're picking a character. It says
Oh,
Miko diverts her time, so there you go. Have your best guess. That's fair enough.
maybe I should change that to its.
Um, okay, so back to the game. Lore challenges. I know we talked a little bit in past interviews about possibly changing some things, like Reyna's 1,000
Mhm.
kills, and then I have another complaint about Isaac's 250 minion plasma dash kills. Are those still on the table, or?
Yeah, yeah, we were certainly looking at a number of those. We've gotten a little bit distracted by some of the other bigger issues that came up. Lore challenges is something we would like to tweak. There's another one that I was just talking about today that needs to get on the queue for a patch. Phoebe has one, I think, damage with Blade Rush. She has to do 2,000 points of damage with Blade Rush, and I know that's pretty difficult. So yeah, there's some of those that we're looking back. But we're again going back to our data analysis. What we really want to do is to now that we're kind of at the end of the first week, pull data from all the player base to find out the completion rate on all the lore challenges and see which ones which are really really lagging behind others, and those would be the ones that statistically we would target for the first the first corrections.
Very cool, very cool. And then a fun one for you. I know this kind of changes a decent bit, but your favorite characters. Let's do 3.
Let me just talk about the ones I've been playing the most, because I speculated a lot and I've sent this list out a few times, but at the end of the day, it right now it comes down to the three that I'm playing a lot. At the moment, most of my playtime this last week has been with my two kids. Again, I call them kids. I've got a daughter who will be 19 in September. She's about to graduate from high school, who is playing competitively for the first time in her life and loving it. And I've got Kayla. You played with Squeaks before, my son, who
Yeah,
turned
he's
17
awesome.
on Saturday. Older kids who are actually both really awesome gamers in their own right. And so when we group up with them, Squeaks is super hyper aggressive. He plays Caldarius a lot. He's really loved Caldarius, especially since we bumped up his TMP damage. Um, and my daughter is kind of waving back and forth between Phoebe and Wrath. She definitely likes the melee characters. Phoebe's sword was named by my daughter, so she has some personal attachment to that character. Uh,
Whoa.
but she likes Wrath quite a bit. She's really enjoyed being that guy, and is playing that. So some of my character choices have been driven by fitting into a mix of my kids and their friends. So I've actually played Miko a lot. I think I did that in open beta, and I ended up playing support a lot because you really, well, I've seen teams win without support, and we played some teams where a lot without support. Miko has been one that I keep coming back to. I'm solid with Miko. I'm not the best Miko, but if no one else is going to play it, I'm more than happy to jump in and be sure that our team's not killed with that. Every once in a while, I'll trade Miko for an Umbra, especially when I have I think it's Caldarius who has a lore challenge with the Umbra and needs an Umbra in a match. So I'm happy to help out with that, and I like Umbra a lot. I'm not nearly as good as Umbra as like Stealth was back in the open beta, but I don't suck with her either. My so that's if that's my those were tied for like my number 3 slot. My number 2 is still Eldragon. I'm still picking him a lot now. I like him a lot. Uh, I'm finding though, as I get up in the Elo rankings and play against experienced players, they get a lot better at shutting Eldragon down, and so the D in my KD goes way up, and that doesn't make me as happy. So he's I'm still trying to figure him out. My number 1, and she's been my number 1 before, and she's my go-to character every time I can play now, is a Rindy. If I can land a Rindy in the match, that's what I'm loving. I figured out a new trick with the Rindy, and I'll give you an exclusive Randy's build for a Rindy right here on your stream.
Oh boy.
So we were playing through. In fact, tonight I just finished all the Arendi lore items on my own, and that felt good. It's the first character I've actually done on my own, all the lore challenges for, and done that. So that felt really cool. That's for reals now. Now I have the no longer broken variable morpher legendary, which totally can't one shot a sentry anymore with that. So I got to miss out on that fun, but. I found this build with the Rindy completely by accident. She gets, I think, the first mutation she unlocks is it's Mind Bullets. I think that's the name of it.
The homing ones?
Yes, and it makes her right click or her alt fire home into enemies. I discovered this playing through a Void's Edge run. We were trying to do Void's Edge on normal because I still want to unlock Cleese. I haven't unlocked that freaking dude yet. And what I discovered when I put home, I was like, I've got a lore challenge where I have to do a certain amount of damage with the right click ability. I'm like, you know what? Let's just make this really easy. I'm going to make them home, so I'm hitting everything all the time, and I can just grind this lore challenge really quick. And what I noticed when I was playing through on Void's Edge is when I would attacking like the Virelsi Skulk, if I would aim above their head with the right click, the homing causes the bolts they home to, I think, the center of mass on a character, which if you shoot the shot above them, the center of mass, it pulls the homing bullets right down through their head, which is often the crit spot on enemies. And
Wow.
so I was noticing that I was like one-shotting skulks with each of the projectiles coming out from a Rindy through that on the Void's Edge. So it was just like do 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 do, and even like the hunters and some of the other enemies, if I jumped up and got a shot above their head, it was coming down. So I went right from that into a competitive match and built my attack damage, crit damage, which I'd never built on a Rindy before. Attack damage and crit damage on that to see what it would do to players. And lo and behold, it works on many of the players. It's super good on Miko. It's really good on several of the flyers like Benedict and Caldarius. But most of the other characters, even Montana, if I jump off a ledge and shoot the bullets or shoot him from above on that, it homes down quite often right down into his head. So yep, attack damage, crit damage, attack speed, and it does a pretty awesome job. I mean, typically I run like movement speed and skill damage builds on a Rendy before, but there may be something to this attack damage, crit damage thing on a Rendy that I hadn't considered before. So I was really proud of myself. I found a build that no one else was running, and it seems to be really effective. But and it was using a mutation for ability that even our lead character designer, I was talking to him about it today. He said, "Yeah, I kind of thought that was a throwaway ability, but you've now made me interested in trying that." So like, yeah, I did something right. But it's put her right back on my number one. I've always loved her mobility. I like the skill test of landing the Shadowfire pillars. I'll never in on top of the. I'll never have the most kills in a match with the Rendy, but I often have a decent amount of
A
kills, and
load
then
of
we'll
false
almost always
spiders
end up on top
hoping
of the
for some
minion clear boards on
upgrades.
her for meltdown. And I know I do. I think if you looked at damage dealt, I'm going to be on top of that stat as well too. Which, by the way, I'm going to answer a free question that I saw go by your chat earlier that you missed, and I'll answer this because someone was asking about scoring in PvP. We are in the process of refactoring the way scoring will be tallied in PvP to encompass more than just kills and deaths. I'm not going to drop the design on you yet, but just let everybody know that we are looking at bringing in things that are more relevant for roles played, especially healing done. Which, by the way, anytime you see the stat healing done, I don't know how many of you guys know this. Uh, Recharging shields, like what Reyna and Khalees do, uh, counts into that stat. So reshielding a player or healing a player all factor into the healing done stat. Healing is not probably not the best word for that stat, but it's all the same thing. So healing done, damage taken, and damage dealt are probably going to be three big stats that are going to be elevated a little bit more. And then we're looking at a way to bring in a more objective based stat, which will probably be mode specific, that will influence score a little bit based on what you are doing in the mode that you're playing. So soon your score won't just be kills and deaths computed together. It'll be a lot more things that will feed into that score rating, which should be a lot better indication of how you performed in your role on that match. So not final yet, but that's where we're leaning, and I think something that's gonna make the comparison a match, and especially things like when you get to the end of incursion, which can more frequently end on a 50-50 tie and goes to score for the tiebreaker. It'll make that win decision a lot more meaningful because it'll show people who have played their role, like Montana or Boulder or Isaac, who have just gone pure defender and absorbed a lot of damage, could actually be a tipping point on the game there. There may be some abusability in that, which is kind of the things we're discussing now and looking at that, but it's going to it's going to, I think, at least round out what score does for the game and how that's computed, and start recognizing other roles other than just killers.
Well, not to defend myself and or my mods here, but I was actually going to ask you that next, along with another question together.
Okay, well, cool. Now you get to ask the other question.
So that's sort of around, I would say, like quality of life for the score system.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask about the ranked system and how, or just like what priorities would be in making that like quality of life prioritized.
On the ranked system.
So, for like the tier system, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so typically, like here, League of Legends is the big factor here. You get to 100 points, and then you go into your promos, and so you have to win a best 2 out of 3 games. It's very stressful for players.
Because you can get random matched in, and other people will influence your ability to go up and down if you just get matched with the crap team.
Yeah, exactly. So just how is that? How is quality of life being thought of for Battleborn?
Uh, the refactoring of scoring is some of the first discussion that will lead into the ranked stuff. So it's one of the other contributing factors to do it. So it is being thought of in that. Again, we're so early in our discussions of what ranked in tiers is going to be, that I don't want to speculate a lot more on how that's going to land. But I would encourage any people who have strong feelings on what they would like to see there. man, to drop by Reddit and add a thread, drop by the Battleborn forums and add a thread, contact me, send everybody spam Kalo with their favorite ideas and make him collate them all and send them to me. However you want to do it. We would love to hear your ideas on it because at the end of the day, we want to make a system that's going to support the Battleborn users that love and play our game. So I'd love to hear the thoughts.
Awesome. So staying on the in-game stuff, tier 3 buildables are pretty underwhelming to say the least. Do you think any changes could be made to those? Because honestly, besides the shield, and even that, it doesn't feel very strong. I know there are legendaries that can buff it, but it just doesn't feel like a big asset.
It's definitely something we could look into. In fact, I don't know that we have any. I've heard the discussion. I just noticed on on your Discord, you're streaming creative director. That's funny.
Yeah, it's a title. Yeah.
I'm being streamed. Yeah. But it's something we can look into. I'll add it to our investigate queue tomorrow and have the designers and our people look at it. I've heard that question enough through open beta and early access that it's probably time to revisit it.
Awesome. Okay, so this next one's super game breaking. He said, not sarcastically at all. It would be really nice to have though. In the hero select screen, you
want to
could,
be able to.
Yes.
You
Yep.
see the other
You already know. You already know.
So what's cool is there's a couple of things there.
You already knew.
Spinning is one. To hear the audio from other people's taunts would be another we've considered. We actually muted that so it didn't get too spammy, but we might do that. There's a few other things that we might consider in that character select as well, but it's on there. There's actually a really awesome Reddit thread on the Battleborn subreddit right now of community suggestions. And that's, by the way, that's if you look at that thread and have any questions, anything that's on that list is getting a lot of serious attention. So those guys have done a good job about taking a lot of the community feedback and collating it to one very digestible thread for us. We're also reading all of the other threads, but threads like that really do help us, especially when it's community moderators that put them together. And spinning is one of the things requested on that. So we've actually had a discussion on that and are looking at to do that. A little bit under the hood, we are going to redo a good portion of character select when we bring draft mode online, because it requires us to have optional character select logic that works differently from the standard character select. So a lot of the types of things that we would do in character select that would be considered, tweaks or modifications or overhauls of that would probably be lumped into that change. Again, no timeline on that. It's months rather than weeks, but it's something we do. We might be able to get spinning faster than that, but we certainly know it's an odd and popular request, and we'll see what we can do there.
Awesome. I find that really hilarious that you already knew what I was going to ask. So I do want to. Huh?
I said I can read your mind.
Oh yeah, we're on that level, Jythri.
Oh, I love you too.
Okay, so I want to wrap this up soonish. I guess this is a bit of a lore question. Will we ever see what Caldarius and Oscar Mike look like?
Well, okay, so Oscar Mike, you've got a pretty big hint already.
Whiskey Foxtrot.
Yeah, they're clones from the same race of clones. So if you take a look at what Whiskey Foxtrot looks like, Oscar's probably not much different under the armor. Caldarius, I would love to do that. I've been talking to some people about that recently, and he's one of my favorites as far as the reveal, because I've mentioned several times on here to your community. He is not a robot. He is a person of some sort under that armor. So yeah, I would love to reveal a little bit more of that. What I would love to do is, I was talking to someone the other day about, could we do something that was kind of like see-through armor by some means that you could kind of see into the man behind the suit. So that would probably come in the line of like a tier 3, more of a premium skin, but I think that would be a lot of fun.
That's really exciting. So I've actually been having this conversation for a few days now, having that 30-hour. So competitive PvE runs. Any thoughts on that?
Competitive. Oh, yeah. That's so along the it's funny because there's a whole bunch of features that are dependent on a core of technology that we need to make it happen. And it has to do with the like a ability to do like temporary stat tracking. To do that type of thing, we need the feature set that will, and when it happens, it will empower us then to do daily quests, leaderboards, and the beginning of tiers and ladders and tournament supports, because it gives us the ability to run comparison stats for a period of time on a subset of the community, and then report the results back out in a format. So those are all of the types of things that will come online eventually, and probably all very close to one another when they come online. But yes, I would love to do it.
Awesome. A DLC mission to what happened to Magna Carta. Pretty cool one.
No comment.
Ooh. All right, fair enough. Did
I
you
would
want to
love.
say something?
I do, but I can't.
I think that's
I,
giving away enough right there.
that's there's several big plot backstories that are very interesting to me and to Aaron Lindy, the other writer, and kind of two big priorities that we would have, in looking at DLC. It may not be with the operations; it may be even beyond that, but it would be exploring more of what's going on with the LLC, which would be the mystery of the Magna Carta. And then we really need to build. We didn't do much in the LLC in the main campaign. You get a lot of Generate, a lot of Eldred, and a lot of Peacekeepers. You get a little bit of the LLC through Minion Robotics, but you don't really learn more about their arc ships or the Magna Carta or anything like that. You also don't learn a lot about the rogues. They're kind of a ill-organized ragtag group, and we never go out to their settlements in the Detritus Ring or talk a lot about what's going on there. And we would love to explore that some as well. So we'll get there
Very cool.
faster if lots and lots and lots of people buy our games. So you know,
There you go. I'll just buy all the copies.
millions of dollars.
Um, so we touched upon this a little bit in past interviews, but so think of this as a more general question. But the question is more ways to earn faction-specific commander packs. So just more ways to earn things in the game would be a better question.
Yes, we would like to do that and have some plans for that. See,
All
look,
right.
that's the shortest answer
Yeah,
all
that's
night.
awesome. Yeah. So uh, we have to come here. I don't know why. There's always questions about it, so I summed up a few. So we talked about Overwatch's beta being on our launch. Would you consider Overwatch Battleborn's rival?
If so, I'm very flattered. I mean, it's I've said this every time, but Blizzard is a company I have a lot of respect for. They make tremendously polished games. It helps to have nearly infinite budgets and infinite time because you have infinite budgets to do so. But Overwatch has been in development for them over 10 years now, I believe. So we've been in development so they've spent a little bit more time on a game with smaller content but highly polished content. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing with the game, and I respect it a lot. Are they our rival? I don't know. There's so many videos you can watch on the internet now that compare the two games and separate them in different ways. I still think there's a lot of similarities. But I think, in that, what I would hope is that, at the end of the day, if we are grouped together in some people's minds, Call of Duty and Battlefield and Halo have been the big three games, competing for the shooter space every year. And I think what eventually happens for those franchises that are constantly supported is people play all three of them, and you play them for different reasons, and they're different games, and you like different things in them. And I think the same thing is true for Battleborn and Overwatch. I think if there's anything that's unfortunate about our two games right now is that for whatever reason, and I don't think either of us wanted this, we ended up launching in the same general window of time as the other game. And I think it probably is. It's definitely we would have preferred not to. If we would have been able to choose otherwise, we would have. And I'm pretty sure that looking at the way Overwatch is marketed against us at every opportunity they've had in the last 3 months, they don't really want that either. So I can only be flattered by that. It's certainly not helped us though. And I'm hoping that over time, we can keep the community interested and engaged enough that we can, earn our existence along next to Overwatch. And I'm completely happy if someone plays a couple of matches in Battleborn this week to unlock something or work on a quest or just get a couple of competitive games in or play part of their tournament and then flips over to Overwatch and plays a couple of matches there and then goes back and forth. I think that's really healthy for everyone to see those games, and I think we're different enough that there's not a direct comparison. You don't have to play them directly. Overwatch is, in fact, I just watched a little bit of it streaming tonight at the end of their open beta to see what was going on, and it just, man, it is just if you think Battleborn is like a fast game, Overwatch is just ridiculous. It's in that Counter-Strike Modern Warfare thing. I was watching one match where some pretty talented streamers were getting just repeatedly spawn camped by someone, and they just couldn't even get out of their base. I think their their average time to kill, actually their average lifespan from spawn was under 2 seconds. But it's we've made a different game with Battleborn. I think one of the things that I hope we're going to see pan out over time is I actually think that our one of our intents of bringing in a broader audience of players, of bringing in people who don't want to play essentially hardcore shooter games, but want something a little bit different than traditional MOBAs are coming in and playing competitive. And I've actually seen a lot more people who are campaign players move over into competitive play for the first time in their life and actually enjoy it for the first time. And that's been really exciting too. And I think if Battleborn works long term, those are the players that we're going to grow. I think we're going to do really well on console for that, by the way. I think once you get to console players expect a different experience and a deeper experience often than what Overwatch is going to give. And so I hope they do well there. I hope we do well there. But I think over time we've got two good games that both have some audiences. We both have something. They hit the esports thing really, really hard, and they hit some performance levels that we didn't prioritize as much as they did because of that. And then we have a campaign. We have a lot more stuff to unlock. We have I think a broader game. I think we're going to outpace them on numbers of characters and number of options of play. And I think every time we do that, it makes our game not just incrementally bigger, but exponentially bigger. So I think both games are going to be cool over time. I think you're going to see Blizzard pour a lot of money into Overwatch and continue to polish and support it and add everything that you could conceivably add to the game. But we're going to be doing a lot of the same thing too. So hopefully people will like both of them and continue to play them. And I would hate for someone not to try Overwatch because they're a Battleborn fan, and I would hate someone not to play Battleborn because they're an Overwatch fan. There's clearly going to be some people who will play one or the other, but I think they're both good games.
Awesome answer, Jythri. As usual, I think that's a great place to end it. I want to thank you for coming on, as usual, and thank everyone for asking some good questions. Keep up the great work. Do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Sure. You can always find me at Jythri, Jythri, on Twitter. I hang around on the Battleborn forums, which I think you can get to through battleborn.com and follow the community forum links from there. also as Jythri over there. And then frequent Reddit also as Jythri, and then occasionally, you know, if Kalo wants to send out the bat signal again and summon me to his Discord chat to talk, I'm always happy to land here and talk.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jythri. Have a good night. I know it's late for you, and thanks again.
See you guys.
All right, thank you everyone for watching. If you haven't seen the transcript already, it'll be in the description of the video. Love you guys. Stay safe, stay beautiful, and I will see you guys next time. Okay, well.